What a loser.
He just can't let it go, can he?
Absolutely not. He's a phony. He's a loser.
Well, let's just get that out of the way. But Butch Jones, um, he, he got beat. What was it, Harbin? What was the score this past weekend?
If my math serves me correctly, I believe it was 73 to nothing.
73 to nothing. There was a great picture going around of him smoking a cigar in the Alabama locker room. I don't know what year that was, one of the years he was an analyst. And he's standing next to big offensive lineman number 73, and he's pointing at him. And that was obviously the score on Saturday. So apparently in his press conference today, he came out and said that, or I guess he was asked a question. There's a lot of negativity around the program right now and around the game last Saturday. What do you think about it? And he said, well, there is a lot of negativity, but it's coming from another fan base, which is a reference to Tennessee. And I just yeah, it's coming from us. I mean, I don't think we would deny. I mean, it is coming from us, but I think he needs to open his eyes a little bit. And I think some of it's probably coming from his own fan base, what little fan base that Arkansas State has. But yeah, I just thought we're recording very late. This is a Wednesday night. I'm all tore up. I'm all over the place. It's Wednesday night. I had a doubleheader softball games tonight, and they were so behind. So it's 10:38. We're recording, just starting, and I was watching actually between games. I was watching that press conference clip today of Butch Jones. So he's the same Butch, isn't he?
Yeah, actually, I think I've got to slightly disagree with you. I think he's gotten cornier and sadder.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, he's facing the fact that he's on the hot seat at Arkansas State. Like
Well, I would assume so.
I mean, that's a fall from glory. Like we could be 3 or 4 months from having our previous two head coaches being high school PE teachers.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me. But let's be honest. If you get beat 73 to nothing, all of the negativity is not coming from a different fan base. Obviously, your fan base is upset that you got your dick put in the dirt. And yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
so
it's
he
crazy.
calm down on us, but
It's crazy. Well, Tennessee, the football season's finally here, Harbin. We didn't get to record last week because I had my toes in the sand 2 days. Family and I went over to Folly Beach and hung out, and we got to go to the beach, the actual go to the beach on Monday and Thursday. Wednesday we got stuck in Hurricane. I call it Hurricane Vidalia because one of my favorite Sammy Kershaw songs, Vidalia. But got rained in on Wednesday, and went and played golf at Patriot Point Golf Links on Tuesday with my brother-in-law. Shot at 83.
there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not great, not bad. So
Was the course pretty tough?
it was, I don't want to say it was like super tough. It was wide open. Not a lot of water hazards until you get to the back nine. The back nine made the course a lot better because there's a view of the bay, and you're basically playing on the water the last 3 or 4 holes, which is pretty cool to see. It was a links course, greens like River Islands or Island Point. So it was a fun course. It wasn't anything special about it, to be honest, but right next to College of Charleston's baseball stadium there in Patriots Point in Charleston. So heard those boys swinging some bats while we were over there, getting some swings in after class, I guess, or before class, whatever. But had a good time over there. So we didn't get to record last week before the Virginia game, but we're going to talk about the Virginia game here on this week's show. look back at what happened around the conference this past weekend in the SEC. We had games all over the place last weekend. So we'll look back and see what's going on there. Talk about the tailgate coming up this Saturday in C8, and briefly look ahead, even though there's probably not much to talk about, against Austin Peay this Saturday in the home opener. So we'll obviously probably talk about the jerseys, I guess. So that's something to talk about later on. But before we get going, I want to give a special shout out. I don't guess they're really sponsoring the show, but we have koozies. I'm holding one in my hand, Harbin.
Yes, sir.
So if you're listening, obviously you can't see this, but if you happen to be watching on YouTube, I've got a YY8 podcast koozie in my hand. These were brought to us and purchased by Appliance Repair Service Incorporated. If you, I wish I would have written this down, so I'm probably not doing justice to this. So Zach, who, spoiler alert, is my cousin, who's one of the, I guess one of the owners, I think. My uncle owns it, but he graciously agreed to purchase these. You can reach them at 865-947-4100. They service all appliances in the Knoxville and surrounding counties area. Whirlpool, Maytag, anything you've got under warranty, they'll do that work, or anything out of warranty. You can give them a call and they'll come out and take a look at your appliances. Dishwasher, Harbin, refrigerator, stove, microwave, any of that stuff. They'll come out and take a look at it for you. And they go all over the place. Knox County, Hamblin, Cock, Sevier, Granger, up in your neck of the woods. They're all over the place. But if you need to give them a call, hopefully you don't, and your Maytag and Whirlpool appliances are working. But if you have to, 947-4100. If you're in the Knoxville area. If you live in Nashville, it won't do any good to call them. Chris.
That's just an extremely high rate.
Yeah. Well, they might travel out there.
Yeah.
So
they'll travel.
To our listeners in Nashville, Chris, YY8 refugee, Laura, and the ladies at wherever she works that listen to us, you will have one of these YY8 koozies coming your way next week, ladies, whoever you are. I don't know your names. They will be coming with Laura next week. So be on the lookout for that. But thank you seriously to Appliance Repair Service Incorporated. There's a lot of phonies out there, not to be confused with Knox County Appliances Services or Appliance Repair Services who do shoddy work. These folks don't. So check them out if you need to. And tell them that YY8 podcast sent you. Nease and Harb.
Yes, sir. Side note, for those that are listening, the koozies are beautiful. They look great. I just want to let them know that they did a great job on the koozies and they look good for those not watching the YouTube currently.
What color are they, Harbin?
They're beautiful Tennessee orange, Pantone 151.
Orange and white. They're not smoky gray anywhere.
No, the inside's black, but that's just like an undershirt. It's okay.
Well, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's just an undershirt.
Maybe the next ones will be smoky gray. We'll see.
Okay.
All right. Tennessee opens up with a convincing win, 49-13 over the Virginia Cavaliers, the Who's. I think we all expected the Vols to win. I think we all expected them to pull away and win comfortably. My takeaways from the game really quickly. Obviously, everybody wants to talk about the quarterback, the offense, the running backs, the receivers. I thought they all looked great at different points. There was some things they could clean up. Joe Milton got a little erratic there in the second quarter, but he cleaned it up. He came around, and I thought they did a really good job with the play calling to get him calmed down. The running game was great. The offensive line was great. What really stood out to me, and I think this has been talked about quite a bit on other podcasts and other highlight shows, that defensive line and that front seven was outstanding. And I know Virginia is not very good. They're starting 4 brand new offensive linemen. They've got a lot of issues on that team. They're not very good. We talked about that on our preview show. I think Athlon had them ranked number 90 in the country. So they're not great. Let's just be honest. They're not. But Tennessee made them look pitiful up front, especially in the first half. They didn't look like that as much in the second half, but they didn't need to be. Tennessee's defensive line and front seven, Harbin, made me rock hard. I'll just be honest. I love the trenches in football. And in this conference, I don't care how much offense you got. You win in this conference on the line of scrimmage. It's always been like that. Defensive line, offensive line, good linebackers. I know we've got an injury with Peay right now. I think we can work our way through that. But if that defensive line plays like that all year long and can sustain that and stay healthy, this defense is going to be vastly improved from last year.
Absolutely. I thought the front seven was incredibly impressive. We're really big up front, but the thing that blew my mind was our D linemen are fast, like especially off the edge. Kind of like what you said. Obviously, Virginia's O-line is not the best, but I mean, defense looked good. Did what we needed to do. As far as offense goes, I don't know how good Virginia's front seven is. I'm going to venture to say that it's not great, but I was really impressed with how the O-line played as well. The O-line looked great, even missing a starter in our center. But yeah, I don't think Milton got sacked once. If he did, it was once.
I think they actually gave up 2 sacks, but one of them was later in the game.
Yeah,
but he did get sacked in the first half. Yes.
Yeah, but what we did on Saturday was kind of the benchmark for what we need to do all year, pretty much. I mean, we had some first game hiccups here and there. Overall, I think Joe Milton played well. There's a lot of idiots out there that were calling for his head in the second quarter. I mean, he missed 2 throws, maybe 3 on one drive, so it made it look worse. But if Keaton catches that deep ball, Milton has 265 yards, and nobody's talking about that second quarter that he had. Everybody's acting like he had a great game. So everything's relative. Our running backs look great. I think we got some dogs in the backfield. But yeah, overall great. I give it an A. We covered, which I know they don't care about covering, but we beat a lower level Power 5 team by 5 touchdowns and got a little bit of momentum going into Austin Peay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Tennessee did what they needed to do. They got out of it relatively injury free. I did not realize that Jordan Peay was that banged up after the game until it came out today that he's going to miss a few weeks with an upper body injury. I'm trying to look up where I know there was a sack somewhere in the first half, but regardless, I think they played. I think they did what they needed to do and got out of there. I think there are some things to clean up. Obviously, the kicking game was not great. Let's just be honest. I don't know if it was nerves, jitters, whatever. Oh gosh, I just went blank on our punter's name. Ross Jackson. He struggled. Let's just be honest. He's a rugby style kicker, and he kicked it off the side of his foot a couple times. I can't remember who our place kicker is that kicks off. But he kicked 2 out of bounds in the game on a kickoff, which is a penalty, obviously, and not good. You can't do that stuff. D. Williams fumbles a punt return, he was outstanding Saturday. He had 3 or 4 really great punt returns, but you can't fumble the football, especially when you set your offense up for really great field position. But other than that, I thought Tennessee was great. Well, the drop by Keaton, but that stuff's going to happen. And I thought Tennessee did a real good job of fighting through it and figuring out how to correct the mistakes mid-game and moving on. And they'll get to do that on Saturday against let's just face it, it'll be a exhibition game in Neyland Stadium against Austin Peay, and it'll give them a chance to work on a few things and get a lot of people some playing time and get ready for the main event down in Gainesville in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, we just need to get through it, get what needs to be done, and get some second string guys some experience this week. The biggest thing that I'm thinking about is there any word on Squirrel? Is he okay?
I think he is. I've not really heard
look,
anything definitive, but I think he is.
that didn't look good.
No, it didn't.
Even if he was okay, I mean, they made the right decision not bringing him back in because we didn't need him. And same goes with Big O. I think he's good to go. I believe.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, there was no point in wasting them after that. Yeah, get those guys healthy. And in a weird way, there's a bright spot in Peely going down. We might get a little bit of more Arion. Arion Carter. Yeah.
Arion Carter, Elijah Herring's going to have to step up in that position. Reading here about Squirrel White. He left in the second half. Josh Heupel said yesterday that it was, quote, the time of the game was the only reason that he wasn't back in the game. We felt we were in a good spot and didn't need him back out there. So he should be good to go. Good thing about that position is they're pretty deep with Ramel Keaton, Brew McCoy, Dante Thornton, and then obviously Squirrel White in there. So they've got a lot of depth there at that position. But the linebacker position is a little more interesting with Peely going down. You're going to have to turn to some Elijah Herring's not, or Arion Carter is obviously a freshman. He looks the part, but he's just not played any, so you don't know what you're getting. Herring coming in has played sparingly the first year he's been here, so he's going to have to step up, which is good that we're playing Austin Peay this Saturday. They can get their feet wet against somebody like that. And because let's face it, even if Florida may not be great, still going to the swamp at night, it's going to be loud. It's going to be tough down there. So they're going to have to figure it out because he's not going to be back in 2 weeks from what I'm hearing. Any other thoughts, Harbin?
Not on the current topic, no.
What do you think about Milton, his performance on Saturday?
I thought he played fine. I would even put it in a pretty good category. I think people overreacted to a few things that happened in the first half. We got to remember his first game of the year. Like you're gonna work some things out, work some kinks out and whatnot. And I thought he played fine. He had one drive that was bad that I would put in the bad category. Outside of that, he didn't really quote unquote miss a ton of throws. He threw one a little behind. I forgot who it was, but it was in the end zone. He threw one a little behind somebody coming out.
I think it was Thornton.
I think it was as well. He threw one a little behind Thornton. Kind of missed that one, but I think all in all, like his decision making was great. Even on the option, like the few keepers he had were good decisions. And you could tell he was actually going through his progressions, especially on that first drive when we scored on 4th and 5 in the red zone. He didn't get his first or second option, but he hit his third and we scored.
And he threw, I know that looks like an easy pass, but that's not. I mean, he had to throw that where Sampson catches it while he's moving toward the end zone. If he doesn't do that, he might get the first down, but he ain't getting in.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, I'd probably give Joe Milton I give him a B+ for the game.
I agree. Yeah, he missed on his accuracy. Was, I don't want to say it was up and down because it really wasn't. I mean, one of the passes he missed was to Ramel Keaton, who dropped what may have been a touchdown. I don't know. It probably would have been, maybe not, but it was it was a bomb nonetheless that was dropped. There was a couple over the middle to McCoy. I think that they sailed on him a little bit. But if you go, I went back and watched the game again, and I thought his decision making, like you said, was great. He was making the right throws. There was a couple he forced, but sometimes you got to force it. Let's just be honest. I mean, you can't just take the safe read every time. So I thought he did it. I thought his decision making was really good, and he had a bad drive in the second quarter where he skipped one to, I believe it was Squirrel White, and then he sailed a couple in a row to Brew McCoy, and then I believe Virginia went down, kicked a field goal, and Tennessee came right back, and they did a really good job running the football, giving Milton some easy throws, some curl routes, some out routes, and then boom, he hits a bomb downfield for 40 or 50 yards to Keaton, and then they're right in the end zone. So it was like it snapped him out of it. So that's I really credit the play calling for that, and I thought Milton did a good job of cleaning up his mechanics mid-game and figuring it out, because he got a little erratic there on that one drive. But other than that, I thought the offense was pretty good. I was kind of squalling at Heupel a little bit for going for it on fourth down inside their own territory early in the game, especially with how bad Virginia is, and maybe that's why they did it. And it didn't come back to hurt them because Virginia missed the field goal. But I guess you can get away with it on teams like that. But I don't know. I would have punted it, but that's me. So, but all in all, outstanding performance for Tennessee. Set a new record in Nissan Stadium, 69,000 fans for a sporting event.
Nice.
And it was mainly Tennessee fans. I saw very few Virginia fans on the screen. So, what about Joe Tessitore and who do we have? Who's the color guy? Was it Jesse Palmer? I believe it was.
I don't remember.
Man, I think it was the Bachelor, Jesse Palmer. Man, did they try to hype up Virginia's defense a lot? And I know they're trying to make the game sound interesting, but that drive where Milton had guys open and he skipped the ball and sailed to, Joe Tessitore said, "What a stand by the Virginia defense." I'm like, dude, we had guys running wide open. Our quarterback just missed the receivers. And I get it. They were out there. They maybe made it difficult on him, but I was like, good grief. Can you hype them up any more than, I mean, they're terrible. But I guess that's an announcer's job when they're being impartial to try to keep the game interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think biased is the wrong word, but there was a good amount of emotion towards the Virginia side because it was their first game back since the shooting and whatnot, and it was noon game on ESPN, so they're going to bring a lot of attention to Virginia, and rightfully so. I mean, they went through a hard time. It's cool to have them back and whatnot, but
that's true.
So.
Milton, getting off the topic of Milton, he was 21 to 30, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns passing. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns with 9 carries for 40 yards. So great day from Joe Milton. I think he was SEC Player of the Week. Jalen Wright was great, 12 carries, 115 yards. Jabari Small, 13 carries, 67 yards. Dylan Sampson, 13 carries, 52 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Touchdown vulture, Harbin.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had obviously we talked about it, a receiving touchdown from Dylan Sampson. 1 reception, 9 yards of receiving touchdowns, 4 total touchdowns. If you had Dylan Sampson on your college fantasy football team, you had a day.
That's correct. He was everywhere.
He was. And he's good. I remember last year he had a big game against Missouri at home. We've got 3 really good running backs if we need them.
We do, and that's great. But I thought this was funny. How many times is Jabari Small going to tackle himself in the open field? I mean, it was funny because the announcers were blaming it on the new turf, with the cork pellets and the It was cork and something else, coconut shell or something.
Coconut.
Coconut. That's right. They were saying that he was slipping maybe because of that. Newsflash, he just likes to do that. I just think it's funny. I think he played great. I don't know what his stats were, but just bet every time he got the ball, it felt like he did something well. But Jalen Wright played out of his mind. Jabari Small did well, and obviously Sampson scored 4 times. So running back room's looking good. And Milton put in some work on the ground. It's like we talked about a couple weeks before the season, man. If the O-line holds up and we're running the ball, we're going to be just as good as we were last year, maybe better.
Yeah, this narrative has come out more and more after the season last year that Tennessee's more of a running team than they are a passing team. And we've talked about it on here a lot, and they are. But I mean, they came out first drive, run, and they're in the red zone just like that. I expect to see more of that this Saturday. And I expect to see it down in the swamp. You go down there and run the football, take care of business. Historically, when Tennessee and Florida plays, when I was growing up, Harbin, the team that rushed the ball the best in those games won the football game. You think back then with Spurrier and the fun and gun, it was all about throwing the football. But really, if you go back and look at the history of that series back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was the team that rushed the football the best. And I don't know how that theme or statistics held up over time since then, since Spurrier left and Philip Fulmer has gone. But I think Tennessee's got to run the football when they go on the road this year. Florida, Alabama, tough places to play, control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, and take pressure off of Joe Milton to have to throw Tennessee back into the game. I don't think he's a guy that needs to be throwing the football 50 times a game. If he's throwing 25 to 35 times a game, we're good. Let them boys run the football, control the line of scrimmage, and we'll be good. So I expect to see a lot of that Saturday, and hopefully we will. I assume we will. So looking ahead to Saturday, Harbin, are you excited about these jerseys? The gray jerseys, smoky gray jerseys with the orange yoke, I guess is what it's called, on the shoulders, in a nod, in a modern twist is what they're calling it, to Condred's Hallway. I wish they would have worn the white ones like they did in 2004 against UNLV at home. That was really cool. I was at that game. What do you think about these?
Be honest with you, I think it looked great. I think they're obviously it's cool to honor him and everything he did here. I'm kind of like you. I would love to just see the traditional throwback one game, but I'm totally fine with this. I think it's a great touch that they outline the number in white. I think that makes maybe not on the actual smoky grays that we've worn in the past, but on these, I think it definitely makes them look better. And the gray face mask was cool in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a good touch. I'm okay with it. You know how a lot of you know my stance on the jerseys and all that, the alternates and all that, but I'm cool with this because it honors Condred's Hallway, not just a great football player, but a great athlete at the University of Tennessee. And a lot of people don't know he was a really good baseball player and was drafted. But I think it's cool that they're doing it. And I have an announcement about my uniform on Saturday, Harbin. Breaking news.
Oh, breaking news. Let's hear it.
So a lot of people know I'm a big advocate of wearing orange to the games. You probably know that. I mean, have you ever seen me at a game that's not a checkered knee not in orange?
No, I don't believe.
You don't believe you have?
You don't wear blue button-ups.
No, I'm not big Montanan, wear blue Lady Vols button-ups to games.
Correct.
But the only time I've worn non-orange to a Tennessee game is the checkered kneeling games because Z11 and YY8 were always in the white section. But I will be wearing smoky gray to the game this Saturday, Harbin.
Wow.
in
We'll
honor of Condredge Holloway.
be taking pictures.
If you're there, take a picture, and we'll give you a koozie and a sticker while you're there.
Koozie, a picture, and a sticker. That's our combo. That's our tailgate combo.
You can't beat it.
Yep.
Are you going to be there Saturday, Harbin?
99% yes.
Good.
Yeah.
You bringing any listeners or fans with you?
I don't know. I'm a big last minute guy. Maybe is my answer. Probably. I'm definitely gonna come and hang out and tailgate. I'm still up in the air if I'm gonna go to the game or not. I'd like to, but we'll see. But I'll definitely be there hanging out, and there may be a listener or two with me. You never know.
Well, spread the word. Tell them that we'll have koozies there and stickers, and we are hopefully going to have a good time. It's tailgate's going to be a little bit different this year. Moses, for those that remember Chad Moses, he may not be there much this year due to scheduling conflicts and other stuff that's going on. So Big Montana and ourselves are kind of taking over the little corner there on C8, and we're going to try to carry the flag for Moses while he's not there. And our boys next to us, I assume they'll be there, that are always there having a blast. So if you're coming to the game Saturday, and come by and see us, we'll have, like I said, we'll have koozies there. Myself and Big Montana will be there. Harbin's 99% sure he's going to be there. So swing by and see us, whether you come by for 30 minutes or 3 hours. We should be setting up around noon on Saturday. Hopefully we'll get there by noon, and kickoff's at 5. So we'll probably head into the stadium around 4:30. So come hang out with us for 3 or 4 hours or 30 minutes, or come by and flip us a bird and leave. I don't care.
Side note, how good is a 5 o'clock kick?
I love it. I said it a couple weeks ago. I
Yeah.
love this 5 o'clock kickoff.
I mean, because you can hang out all day, tailgate all day, go to the game, and then game ends, you go home, and you're in bed still by a very decent hour.
Or
And,
you can go party.
or you can go party and start at not midnight.
Yeah, exactly. I wish there was more 5 o'clock kickoffs. I don't know why there's not.
I agree. I think 5 o'clock is the optimal starting time. Which is this our first 5 o'clock kick? I mean, I may be wrong.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know we've had some 4 o'clocks,
but
yeah, I don't know. That's a good. I can't remember any off the top of my head, but I know we kicked off against Florida 10 years ago or so at like 6 o'clock, which was kind of weird, but because most of the games are 3:30 or 7. Noon, 3:30, 7 is football game kickoff times. There's 4 o'clock games now on the SEC network. You don't really see, well, there's 10:30 games if you're in the Pac-12, rest in peace. But yeah, there's not really many. You don't see 5 o'clock kickoffs. I don't know what FCS teams do as far as their kickoffs. I think a lot of them are at noon, but I'm sure there's some at weird hours of the day. And then Division II, I don't know what time's Carson Newman kick off usually.
Normally 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, so they're usually 12, 1 o'clock. So I don't know. It's a rare time, that's for sure.
Their first game of the year, fun fact, was a Thursday night game.
Nice.
Which, my knowledge of the program is only like the second or third or fourth one that they've had. Because I remember my senior year, we had a Thursday night 7 or 8 o'clock kickoff, and it got a little messy before and after because that's nature of the beast.
I would hope it would. I think they play. Don't they play ETSU this week?
Yes, they do.
Interesting matchup.
Take the Newman on the spread.
The Eagles versus the Bucks.
I believe the spread's about 24.5. I expect the Eagles to cover, and potentially tickle the over at 61.5.
I haven't seen a line for the Tennessee Austin Peay game, but I can't imagine it's less than 40.
If I was well, I'm not gonna kid y'all. I am a gambling man.
I was about to say, you are a gambling man.
I would expect the line to be around between 42 and 45. And the total probably around 63 to 65 and a half. I'd say Vegas is expecting this game to be probably 52 to 7, somewhere in that general region. Like 49 to 3, somewhere in that general.
I'm so glad this game's not on our pick sheet this week. The games we pick. I think there's 59 of us this year. Several listeners of the show are on there, but I really don't like when teams are playing these FCS teams or 1AA teams, as I call them. And the lines are like 40 and 50 points. I mean, it is kind of fun every now and then, but I'd rather pick a game that's, more tightly contested, more interesting. And we'll get into some more games and the lines coming up here later on, but I'm so glad that game's not on there this week. But anyway, looking forward. If you are coming, come by to see us. We're looking forward to seeing everybody. It is so good to be back on campus. The weather's going to be great. Back in C8, back with YY8 Nation. We are the nation, YY8 Nation of domination. But yeah, if you're by there this Saturday, come by and see us, and we'll have a good time before kickoff. So let's look around the conference, Harbin. Tennessee wasn't the only SEC team playing, although we were the only SEC team to beat a Power 5 opponent. So take that for what you will. Even though Virginia is weak and failing. And by the way, shout out to those guys. They went through a lot last year with the 3 football players being killed in that shooting, and the Hollins guy coming back and playing this past Saturday. Good for them, but they're not very good. I'll just leave it at that. They're pretty pitiful. But there were other teams around the conference that played, so I'm just going to go down the list. I'm assuming this is in chronological order here of when the games happen. So we'll start with Vandy. They beat Hawaii 35-28, Harbin.
Cool.
Good for them.
I mean, I caught a little bit of that game. They were up comfortably, and then they started playing like Vanderbilt. And Hawaii actually had a drive to win that game. And they threw a pick, or to tie the game, excuse me. But
we talked about
week 0.
Yeah, well, that was week 0, yes.
Yeah.
So we talked about this. Their stadium, I mean, it literally looked like a high school stadium, a big high school stadium, not like Carter High School, but I mean, it's so weird. I don't know. Again, I understand it was going to be under construction during the season, but it's like they waited till the last minute to start the thing. And there's a crane in the end zone during the game holding up a video board, and it's swaying back and forth. The whole thing, it's just odd. I don't know, but it's on par with Vanderbilt athletics. Just weird. Just weird.
Yeah. I mean,
but shout out to Vandy. They're actually 2-0 because they won. We'll just go ahead and talk about their second game here. Let me look it up. They so that was week 0. And then they played again this past weekend, and they beat somebody, Alabama A&M, 47-13. Vanderbilt's 2-0. Congrats to Vandy. You're ahead. You're leading the SEC. You don't say that much, but yeah, Vandy has played a tough schedule right out of the gate. Hawaii and Alabama A&M. This was an interesting game, Harbin. I did not get to see any of this on Thursday night. I was with Reagan and Melody to pick up her friend Molly. Molly of Club 200. Don't ask any questions. It's a sorority house in Auburn. But Utah beat Florida 24-11 with a backup quarterback and a couple other backup players. What's your take on Florida after their first game?
They're not very good. Just point blank and simple. I watched that game in its entirety. I had an opportunity to make a small fortune, but I made a little bit more than some lunch money on the Utes. All in all, it was funny because I was making fun of Florida's quarterback because he's Wisconsin transfer, but he was kind of their bright spot. I want to say he went for over 300 yards. He didn't play bad, but hell, he got sacked 7 or 8 times. His run game got him like under 20 or 30 yards. It was something stupid. And their secondary is trash. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Utah's good. Don't get me wrong, but they were rotating between their second and third string quarterback. They had a passer and a runner, from what I gathered. Our defense is good. Florida scored a touchdown late and went for 2 just to make it look better. It was 24-3 with like 6 or 7 minutes left.
Do you and by the way, their quarterback Mertz threw for 333 yards. Do you feel any different about the upcoming Tennessee Florida game now after they played Utah in week 1 than you did before?
No, because I kind of saw that happening in this Utah game. I didn't think their offense would look as bad as it did. Well, let's face it. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. That game's going to be a rock fight, and it probably shouldn't be. But we're not going to go down there. I mean, I hope to God I'm wrong, but we're not going to go down there and win by 21 or 28 or whatever. We're not going to go down there and blow them out of the water, I don't think. We're going to sweat a little bit, and it's going to be a hard game, and we'll probably come out and win by about 10 points. I don't think the score will indicate what kind of game it was. I think we'll kind of whip up on them, but I just don't know if the score will reflect it. But no, to answer your question, I don't feel much different about the Florida game now. If anything, I feel more assured, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't get to see hardly any of that game. No, actually, I saw none of it. So I was trying to keep up with the score on my phone. But it's Florida's. It's kind of weird seeing them in this state, but I'm very happy that they're in that state. I hope it continues. If there is a fan base and a place that deserves to be down in the dumps for a while, it's that place. I mean, they've fallen forward, they've fallen up so much in the last 10 to 15 years. It's not even funny. And they don't deserve it. So, anyways, that's. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
All I was saying was, if Billy Napier don't figure it out, they could be in a bad spot for a while.
Do you think, and we'll move on because we got a lot of other games to talk about, but do you think that he's on the hot seat already down there, even though they're recruiting very well? I mean, Derek Dooley supposedly recruited well here, but he never could win. But I think we all knew that Billy Napier was walking into kind of, I don't want to say a mess, but not a great situation in Florida. And it's kind of gotten worse since he's been there. But I think we all knew that they weren't going to be very good this year. Do you think they're lenient with him and give him some time to try to rebuild this thing? I think it's kind of unfair after 2 years to ask a coach to do that, even though I thought Derek Dooley should have probably been gone after his second year when we lost to Kentucky. But I don't know. Do you think he's got a lot of pressure on him? He's on the hot seat at this point.
He's got a ton of pressure on him. Do I think he's on the hot seat? Fan wise, in a weird way, Florida is a little bit like us. And the fact that they're rabid with wanting success instantly and being loud when they don't get it. The only problem with that is I looked into the numbers. There was an article that came out about it. If Billy Napier gets fired after this season, Florida's got to pay him like 36 or $37 million in his buyout. And let's just say that he has a bad year this year. Let's say they go 5-7. Let's say next year, when they have a much tougher schedule, like we talked about a few weeks ago, and they win 4 or 5 games and they decide to fire him, they still have to pay him $25 million. So they're handcuffed with him. Do I think he's on the hot seat officially? No, but it's because the University of Florida handcuffed themselves.
Yeah, a lot of these schools, these coaches got these schools by the balls on their contracts, but that's another story for another time. But you're right, that's a huge amount of money, and they're getting ready to renovate Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. So I'm not sure they're going to be willing to to write that kind of a check after this season, but we'll see. So moving on, another game on Thursday night. I didn't get to see this one either. Missouri beat South Dakota 35-10. Any thoughts on this one, Harbin?
Not one. I didn't watch any of it.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even know
Good for
Missouri was
Missouri.
playing on Thursday night.
Good for Missouri.
Congratulations to Dorkwitz. Obviously we talked about Tennessee and Virginia. The next one is Georgia and University of Tennessee Martin. Pat Summitt's alma mater. They went down to Athens, lost 48-7. Interesting note, I didn't watch any of this game. But it was 17-0 at halftime, and from everything I read, the Bulldogs were just kind of going through the motions. Carson Beck, new starting quarterback for the Bulldogs. Brock Bowers is back. He had 5 receptions, 78 yards. Beck threw for 294 yards, 1 TD. This kind of ho-hum. From what I read, it was just kind of it's the typical Georgia style of football. They go out there and just kind of control the thing and do what they need to do and get out of there. But some of the things I read is they weren't real pleased with the play in the first half of the Bulldogs. It looked almost semi-lethargic, like they were literally just going through the motions, which you can with a team like UT Martin. But they ended up pulling away and winning by 41. Any thoughts on this one?
No. I watched very little of it, just flipping channels. I mean, Georgia didn't look bad, obviously. They just had no interest in it, from what I gathered. They're obviously going to be fine, but it is kind of interesting to keep an eye on the quarterback play.
Alabama takes down Middle Tennessee State University 56-7. I'm just going to skip around here real quick because there were several blowouts. Ole Miss takes down Mercer 73-7 in Oxford. Texas A&M, which was an interesting story in the preseason. How are they going to respond from their terrible season last year? They beat New Mexico at home 52-10. So I'm assuming the offense looked pretty good. They scored 28 points in the 35 in the first half, 28 in the second quarter. Kentucky over Ball State, 44-14. I saw at different points. I mean, at halftime, Kentucky was up 20-7, and they ended up pulling away in the second half. Arkansas 56-13 over Western Carolina. Auburn 59-14 over UMass and Hugh Freeze's debut down on the plains in Auburn. Mississippi State over Southeast Louisiana 48-7. And then we mentioned Vandy 47-13 over Alabama A&M. Anything from those games stand out to you?
Not really. I mean, just a bunch of tune-up games for the most part. Obviously, we had a couple games with some action, but really, this is get your feet wet and get your shoes tied and whatnot, and get ready for a couple real games.
So the two interesting games out of the conference, outside of the Tennessee scope, which I thought the game of the day, besides one that was outside of the SEC, even I thought the Houston San Antonio, UT San Antonio, who Tennessee plays later in the season. I watched that game. Houston ends up winning, but San Antonio looked awful offensively. And I don't have the stats or even the score pulled up. I know Houston ended up winning, but it was a tight ball game back and forth. I thought reading about it, and we talked about it, San Antonio is going to be really good offensively. I know it's one game. They did not look great, so that's something to keep an eye on. But the other game of the day I was intrigued with was North Carolina versus South Carolina. It's the Duke's Mayo Classic at oh gosh, what's Charlotte Stadium called now? I can't remember. Anyways, where the Panthers play, Bank of America Stadium. North Carolina takes down the Gamecocks 31-17. The Gamecocks scored 3 points in the second half. They didn't look great in really any facet of the game. They had some moments in the first half. Drake May for North Carolina looked pretty good. He had a pick in the second half. It really wasn't his fault. North Carolina actually gave South Carolina some chances and kept them in the football game late in the fourth quarter, and it really shouldn't have been as close as it was. But I really I normally root for the SEC if Tennessee's not playing them and these early season games, conference pride, Harbin. I want the SEC to do good. It makes everybody in the conference look better, but it brought a smile to my face to watch South Carolina lose the way they did. They didn't play good at all. And to see Shane Beamer's face on the sideline, the disgust on his face, I grinned most of the night watching that game. It brought a smile to my face, in the words of the Joker.
Yeah, I did too. That's another game I made a decent amount of money on. I took the Tar Heels.
How much did you make this weekend? Sound like you made a little bit more than gas money.
Hey, buddy, we ain't talked about some of the other games that I bet on. I had a decent weekend. I came up a little bit, nothing crazy. North Carolina game really helped me, but South Carolina looked extremely mediocre, in my opinion. I think their line sucks. What was I forgot who the commentators were, but one of them pretty much said, hell, Spencer Rattler's not going to make it through the season if this O-line don't get it cleaned up.
I think it was Sean McDonough and McElroy, I think was who's calling that game.
Yeah. To be fair, Rattler didn't look bad. He also went over for 300 yards. No scores, no picks. Just kind of mediocre, or a little above mediocre. I'll give him a little bit of credit. Yeah, their line did not look good. They couldn't run the ball whatsoever. Rattler stayed on his back. Defense didn't look good. I don't know. Beamer ball is just starting to feel a lot like Butch Jones, in my opinion. I believe I've got a quarterback carrying them to slightly above mediocrity, and once he's gone, I think Shane Beamer might get exposed a little bit.
I've just never understood in the offseason. I get it, it's off-season hype, but what was all the hype? I know they won 2 good games. They won 2 big games last year. They beat Tennessee, they beat Clemson at this end of the season. Great. But why so much hype with this team? They don't really recruit all that well. I mean, they're not even near. I don't think if they're in the top 25, they're near the bottom recruiting wise. So they don't recruit, at levels like Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Florida. They don't recruit at that level. And they've got Spencer Rattler. I think we can all agree, above average quarterback, or has the capability to do that. I did not understand the hype with this team in the offseason. And I think you talked about it. They have the potential, maybe it was Missouri too, to go on a losing streak before we play them later on. And I don't think that they expected to play this way. The fan base, the coaching staff, or the players expected this kind of game right out of the gate against the Tar Heels. And the Tar Heels are good. They're going to compete for the ACC. Now that Clemson's probably not who everybody, again, thought they were after losing to Duke on Monday night. But, yeah, I don't know. I think South Carolina's got a lot of issues. And they may turn it around. I don't know. But this feels like a 500 football team to me.
I was about to say, I think if you're a South Carolina fan, I think you're rooting for 7-5 after how you played against North Carolina. I know it's the first game of the year. You got some things to work out, and obviously it's the first weekend of September, so you can turn this thing around and get ahead in the right direction early, but it just didn't look good. I mean, they look like they'll go 6-6 or 7-5. Best case scenario, they sneak out 8-4. I mean, that's just exactly what they look like, and I think that's what they are.
So, and I'm trying to find it, Harbin. I thought I read. I'm sorry, I missed it. So the SEC goes 1-3 against Power 5, Florida loses to Utah. South Carolina loses to North Carolina. The third loss is LSU against Florida State, the Camping World kickoff at the Citrus Bowl Stadium or Camping World Stadium, home of 2 WrestleManias, by the way. Florida State takes down the Tigers and Brian Kelly 45-24. The Tigers did nothing offensively in the second half. Florida State ran away with it in the second half. I felt like they pushed around LSU. Another team that I'm not saying they weren't good, but I don't understand the number 5 ranking to start the season in LSU. Tennessee went in there and whipped them all over the field last year in early October, and they did beat Alabama at home, but the JT Daniels hype for Heisman, the playoff talk for LSU, I heard it multiple times on pregame shows Saturday. LSU's in the playoffs. I didn't quite understand it. I think it kind of came to fruition Saturday night. Florida State looked pretty good. I think Mike Norvell's done a pretty good job down there. He's always had good teams at Memphis State. So, LSU they got a lot of work to do. They got a lot of issues. And I know that's a little bit different than the North Carolina, South Carolina game where these are 2 top 10 teams supposedly playing each other right out of the gate. So it's a tough game. And it's a good gauge of where you might be going. But Brian Kelly said it after the game. He said, I think we thought we were Georgia, and we're not. And they definitely aren't. They did not look good in really any facet of the game through all 4 quarters.
No, I agree. So getting back to my gambling weekend, part of the reason I didn't have a really good weekend is because I took the LSU Tigers as well on Sunday. My thought process going into the game was I thought that both teams were a little overrated. I just thought LSU was a little less overrated. I was completely wrong in that standpoint. I don't even know if LSU's not good. I think Florida State just looked extremely good. Florida State looked like they could be a playoff contender, like very seriously. That game was tied with, I don't know, like 4 minutes left in the third quarter, and then Florida State absolutely turned it on. I think LSU made 1 or 2 mistakes, and Florida State capitalized on every bit of it. But yeah, LSU, if I had to predict down the stretch, they'll probably go 9-3. I have no reason not to believe that Florida State doesn't win the ACC and potentially be in position to go to the playoff, though, the way they looked. I know it's an overreaction after 1 game, but
yeah,
that's how I'm feeling with them.
This college football season, before we look ahead to this coming weekend's game, it's got some 2007 season vibes to it right out of the gate. And maybe that's just because teams were misplaced or whatever, but I don't feel like Georgia's obviously probably the best team. But after that, I watched Ohio State, Indiana. Ohio State won and they were never threatened, and I know Indiana's not the Indiana of old. They're decent. But it just felt like they were just kind of just doing what it took to win and going through the motions. And obviously in the SEC, we saw Georgia and Alabama got off to not, and I'm not saying they should score 28 points in the first quarter, but slow first halves, picking it up. But I don't know, I might be totally wrong on this, but it's got some 07 vibes where we might see a lot of upsets as the season goes along, and not chaos, but that 07 season was, if you've never looked it up, I think there's a video on YouTube of the 07 season about how chaotic that season was. Tennessee went to the SEC title game with 3 SEC losses and 4 total losses on the season. That's how crazy the SEC even was that year. Florida won the national title the year before and didn't even play in the SEC title game the next year. Tennessee played LSU that year and should have beat them. And LSU was ranked 7th going into the SEC title game and went to the national title game and won it. It was just topsy-turvy, but we may not see something like that, but I think it could have an essence of that. Maybe we'll see. So looking ahead, as my mouse has frozen up and not working, Harbin, let me get to week 2 of the season. Some more juicy matchups. We know Tennessee's playing Austin Peay. I did not realize this was a game this weekend, but it's 11 o'clock on the ACC network. Vandy travels to Wake Forest. Wake Forest is a 10-point favorite. Over under at 56. Who do you got?
I mean, I think Wake Forest wins. If you twist my arm right now, I'd probably take Wake Forest on the spread.
Same. Georgia host David Letterman's alma mater, Ball State. Another tough matchup for the Bulldogs. They're only 42-point favorites.
They may get to full speed by the 4th game of the year.
The Eastern Kentucky somethings. I about called them the Hilltoppers. That's Western Kentucky. They travel to Kroger Field in Lexington, Kentucky to take on the Wildcats. There's no line in this game because EKU is a FCS team. So I'm assuming the Wildcats will win that one going away. Here's an interesting matchup, Harbin. 3:30 on ESPN2. Ole Miss, number 20 in the country, travels to number 24 Tulane in Ullman Stadium there in New Orleans. Ole Miss 7.5-point favorite. What do you think?
That game's gonna be fun. What's the total set up?
Over under right now is set at 67.
Yeah, there's gonna be a ton of points in that game. It's gonna be fun. Probably won't get to watch. Maybe get to watch first 30 minutes if there's a TV close by at the tailgate.
I can tell you, Big Montana and I will not have a TV, but maybe there's one close to us. We'll see.
Yeah. I might stumble by TV and get to catch a little bit of the first quarter. But that has potential to be a game that like you go back and watch. Like there could be some fireworks. I think Ole Miss pulls it out, but I think it's extremely close. And I'm going to take Tulane to cover. I'm going to take Tulane to cover.
This is one of those games where I can see. I think Ole Miss wins, but it's got upset written all over it. Ole Miss is traveling to Tulane, which is odd to me. But Tulane's a good football team. They were good last year. It's at their place. I know it's not a very big stadium, but crazy things happen when you go on the road. So watch out for that one. I think there's 3 intriguing matchups this week, and there's some kind of odd matchups across the conference. That's one of them is that one. The second one is Texas A&M going to Miami. And I was reading today that Miami's actually doing a BOGO, Harbin. Buy one, get one. If you buy a ticket to the A&M game, they're going to give you a ticket to the Georgia Tech game later in the season for free. What a deal. What a deal.
You want to make a couple weekend trips to Coral Gables?
Hey, I tell you what, I was at that stadium in January. So let's go rent a car and drive to Miami like Griffin and I did back in late December.
By God, let's do it.
We got a place to. I know somebody that's got a place down there. We can just stay at their place.
I'm in. I think Texas A&M probably wins that game, but it wouldn't shock me if Miami did.
This is an interesting game for A&M because it's really going to. I mean, I know they won 52-10 against whoever that New Mexico last week, but this is really going to show where they're at because Miami's a pretty decent football team. They're not ranked, but they're good. What is the
line?
A&M's favored by 4, over under at 51.
Miami looked pretty good. Granted, it was against Miami, Ohio, but Miami looked pretty good. The spread in that game was only like 16, and I think they won like 38-3 or something like that. So
I think my head's telling me to take Miami, but my gut's telling me to take A&M to cover and win. But I wouldn't be in the least bit shocked if Miami takes down A&M and A&M doesn't look good. And here we go with the talk. So we'll see. That's an interesting matchup. The third interesting matchup, probably the biggest of the day, Texas, the Longhorns traveling to Alabama. Alabama's favored by 7, over under at 54. 7 o'clock kickoff on ESPN, Bryant Denny Stadium. What do you think, Harbin? What do you got?
If Alabama's worth a shit, you absolutely smash them -7. Because Texas did not look that great against Rice. I watched a decent amount of that game. I think they ended up winning like 37-3 or 39 or whatever it was. But it wasn't impressive in my opinion. And I mean, Alabama looked impressive against MTSU, but that's also MTSU. We'll see if Milroe plays the whole game. I feel like Milroe played pretty good against MTSU. But regardless, if Alabama is any good whatsoever, they cover 7, in my personal opinion. Another thing, I'm going to give credit to the University of Alabama. It's a one-time deal.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a one-time deal. I hate Alabama as much as anybody, but I love high levels of pettiness, and that's
Yes.
exactly what they did. For those that don't know, last year when they traveled to Austin to play the Longhorns, Texas informed them that their band and their fan seating would all be in the upper deck in the corner. So Alabama, as a middle finger, did not send their band. This year, while the Longhorns come to Tuscaloosa, Alabama informed them that their band and allotted tickets will all be in the upper deck in the corner, which, according to some Bama fans that I've talked to, is a very first for the University of Alabama. So kudos to them for being chicken shit. I love retaliation pittiness. It's one of my favorite things. And that's part of what makes college sports great when you have home and homes. If you piss somebody off on the front end, they'll get you back on the back end. So good on them.
I agree on everything you just said. Yeah. I wish more away fans set up top. I think that's where they should go. Sorry. We're not here to be hospitable to you. We're your enemy. We want to take you down. We don't want to give you an advantage of sitting 8,000 of your fans in the lower deck. So get over it. But good on Alabama for doing that. Other matchups quickly here, Harbin. These aren't really of any consequence, but Kent State, Arkansas is hosting Kent State. Arkansas is favored by 38. Missouri's hosting MTSU. MTSU with the SEC gauntlet back to back.
Ball State too.
Yeah. Yeah, Ball State. Missouri's favored by 20.5 points over the Blue Raiders. LSU will look back to get back on track. They're hosting Grambling. Same with Florida. They're hosting McNeese State. Or McNeese. Sorry, I thought it was State, but maybe not. South Carolina's hosting Furman. Couple in interest, I don't want to call them maybe intriguing, but interesting matchups. The first of which, Mississippi State hosting Arizona, 7:30 p.m. SEC Network. Bulldogs are favored by 9. That's an interesting matchup at Davis Wade Stadium. And then Auburn, the Tigers, Reagan School, traveling out to Berkeley. Tennessee did this back in 2007. Auburn Tigers traveling to California, 10:30 Eastern time, ESPN, Pac-12, SEC After Dark. Auburn is favored by 6.5 over the Golden Bears. I did not know they were playing each other this year. That's an interesting matchup. I'm guessing that's a home and home they've set up. But what do you think about those two games, real quick?
Somebody put on Twitter earlier this week. It was a screenshot of all the games we just went through, and it said this has to be the most random week of SEC scheduling ever, because you have some cupcake games, you have some mid-major games, and then you have the blockbuster Alabama, Texas, arguably the two biggest brands of all time. And you have Ole Miss going on the road to a group of 5 team. And then you have Auburn playing in damn California.
Yeah.
And then you have an Arizona team playing in Mississippi. Are there 2 states that are any more different in the country? Yeah, it's a weird week. Definitely going to be some different point of views going into it. I would like to think Auburn takes care of business out in the sunshine. I don't know anything about Arizona, just to be honest with you.
Me
But as
either.
the spread indicates, Mississippi State should get it done. Yeah, it's going to be a fun week. Kind of hard.
The Auburn Cal game is interesting to me to see where they're at against a Power 5 team, not whoever that I can't remember who they played last Saturday, but yeah, that's an interesting game to me. I think Mississippi State should probably beat Arizona, especially being at home. But yeah, it's a weird weekend, like you said, for scheduling. So interested to see how the other games play out besides the Vols as we already head into week 2. So looking forward to watching some ball when I get back from Neyland Stadium Saturday night, falling asleep on the couch probably, and waking up on Sunday morning and watching SEC Now on the SEC Network for the highlights. Hey, real quick, Harbin, before we go, I was supposed to ask you, did you play golf by yourself this afternoon? Did you find anybody to play golf with?
Oh, yes, I did. I played with a buddy of mine.
Okay. Well, I
Yes,
was told that you asked in a group chat to play golf, and absolutely no one responded to you.
0. And there is roughly 25 people in that chat. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that to the light in the public.
They, I don't know whether to laugh at you or console you, Harbin, for not getting any response, because I feel your pain on that sometimes.
You find out who your friends are sometimes, and evidently, don't have any in a 25-man group chat. So
I'll tell you one guy that was cackling really loud about it. He thought it was hilarious. I won't mention his name, but Joey Cox thought it was funny.
yeah, I guarantee you did. I guarantee it.
Sad. Did you see that Donald Trump's going to the Iowa State game this weekend?
No, I don't.
What we got to do to get him to come to Knoxville?
What we got to do to get him on the pod?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. You never know.
Might as well. If he's in for a game, he's got time to do a 25-minute interview with the boys.
That's true. And maybe they'll provide the Zoom so we don't get stuck on 40 minutes.
that would be our big break.
Well, guys, it is very late. As of right now on this show, it is after midnight. Harbin's putting his finger up. One last thing before we
very
head out.
quick. We never covered it. Very impressive win out of the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yes.
Neon Dion did his thing. His son set the school record for passing yards in the first game ever played for him. That's hilarious in my opinion. After the game, all-time quote out of Dion. The sideline reporter asked him a question. He was emotional. He wiped his face and he said, "Man, I'm going to thank God for getting me here, and I'm thanking the hood for having my back along the way." You put it on every T-shirt, put it on billboards. Greatest quote of all time. With that being said, I'm considering taking a loan out and putting it on the Nebraska Cornhuskers plus 3.5 this weekend.
Wow. There you go.
Nebraska was 7-point favorites, and after their respective games this weekend, Colorado is now a 3.5-point favorite. So that's.
I did read that Colorado has sold $430,000 worth of tickets since last Saturday for the game. So
but
they're helping pay for that contract that they didn't have money for.
There is more money on the Colorado Buffaloes this weekend than every NFL team combined for week 1.
Jeez. Wow.
So there is $1 bazillion on Colorado, and I just don't see a scenario where Vegas loses.
We'll see. Poor Nebraska just can't catch a break, so Colorado might make them even more miserable. We'll see. But yeah, Dion's got maybe something good going out there. We'll see if he can sustain it after one game. But man, they look good Saturday. So we'll see. That's definitely helping the ratings on Fox. They had like record ratings. So, well, Harbin, we are, in the words of the great Tony Schiavone, we are out of time on this week's podcast. We appreciate everybody listening. Be sure to listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, which most people listen to us, get it on Spotify or Apple or Google. We're on YouTube. Remember that. Come by the tailgate this Saturday, get you a sticker, get you a koozie, get your picture with me and Harbin or Big Montana or whoever else is there. Or like we said earlier, give us the old stone cold double bird and walk off after you get it. Either way, we hope to see you this Saturday. We're looking forward to being back in Neyland, being back in C8. And we appreciate everybody listening. For my cohort Harbin, we will see you guys next week on the Section YY8 podcast.